Hello guys, a very good morning. Welcome back. We are discussing security plus terminology for our latest exam SY0-601. This is part 2. I have already recorded part 1. So we are discussing approx 400 terminology which is related to CompTIA Security Plus. So let's get started here. Terminology CompTIA Security Plus SY0-601 Part 2. So the first term on my screen is network access control. So network access control is one aspect of network security. It provides visibility into the devices and users trying to access the enterprise network. It controls who can access the network, including denying access to those users and devices that do not comply with security policies. So if you see here, new devices are being onboarded and then they send the request, so they might be allowed, blocked, or they might be sent to quarantine. So that is your network access control. Then you got network address translation. So this stands for network address translation. It is a way to map a multiple local private addresses to a public one before transforming the information. Organizations that want multiple devices to employ a single IP address use NAT, as do most home routers. So what you have here, you have multiple private IPs. Now you can send the request from these devices to outside using only one public IP, because for the public IP it is routable, you're paying for it, so you will have one public IP which is going to take a request from multiple private IPs. It also provides a security, so anyone from outside cannot come within your internal network. NCAT is a general purpose command line tool for reading, writing, redirecting, and encrypting data across a network. It aims to be your network Swiss Army knife, handling a wide variety of security testing and administration tasks. NCAT is suitable for interactive use or as a network connected backend for other tools. Like, if you do ncat.h, it's going to give you all the options which you can use with this tool. Nessus is used for vulnerability analysis. So when you do VAPT, this is one of the tools you have been using most of the times, because it's a remote security scanning tool which scans a computer and raises an alert if it discovers any vulnerabilities that malicious hackers could use to gain access to any computer you have connected to a network. It does this by running over 1200 checks on a given computer, testing to see if any of those attacks could be used to break in the computer or otherwise harm it. So you have Nessus, where it gives you a report, what are the critical vulnerabilities and what are the high vulnerabilities. So once you click on it, it's going to tell you what the vulnerability is and how to fix it. So because it is going to get it from CVSS, Common Vulnerability Scoring System, which uses a kind of a calculator to check the vulnerability. NetFlow solutions are commonly used standard for monitoring network flow data. Released as a feature on Cisco routers, NetFlow allows you to monitor IP network traffic information as data packets enter or exit an interface. So these are the packets, it's just going to check the source IP, destination IP, source port, destination port, all that information when a packet is going to enter in your network. NFC is a near field communication. This is what enables two devices to communicate wirelessly when they are close together. This is actually a subset of something called RFID, radio frequency identification, a technology that allows us to identify things through radio waves. So you make a payment like Google payment, Yahoo payment, that you do through NFC. So these are some other applications of NFC. You tap and exchange, you tap and pay. Next generation firewall is a part of third generation of firewall technology. Is going to combine a traditional firewall with other network device filtering functions such as application firewall using in-depth packet inspection. It also uses IPS, it is a firewall. It uses IDS IPS, it uses web filtering, it has anti-malware, it does anti-spamming, it does traffic shaping, it also provides VPN service. So that's your next generation firewall, NGFW. Nmap is your network scanner, which is created by Gordon. So this is used to discover host and services on a computer by sending packets and analyzing the response. Nmap provides several features for probing computer network, including host discovery and service and operating system detection. So you do ping scanning, you do scanning for the ports, you will scan a host, you will find the operating system, you will scan the top ports, you will send output to a file. You can also disable DNS and do disable DNS resolution. So these are some of the scans which you can do with Nmap. So this is ZenMap also, which is graphical version. This works on Kali or Parrot. Nonce is a number which is used only once. So in cryptography, a nonce is an arbitrary number that can be used just once in a cryptographic communication. It is often a random or pseudo-random number issued in an authentication protocol to ensure that old communications cannot be reused in a replay attack. So a nonce is an arbitrary number used in cryptography to ensure uniqueness and prevent the rerunning of transaction. You just prevent a replay attack. Non-repudiation, so there is no denying. Assurance that sender of information is provided with a proof of delivery and that the recipient is also provided with a proof of the sender's identity. So neither can later deny having processed the information. So if you see here, I never sent the message which you claim to have received. So that will not happen if you ensure non-repudiation. It's a part of CIA triad like confidentiality, integrity, and availability. So you have also authentication and non-repudiation, authenticity and non-repudiation. Obfuscation refers to the process of concealing something important, valuable, or critical. Cybercriminals use obfuscation to conceal information such as files to be downloaded or sites to be visited. So you just hide it. If you see before, after, now, what do? You just replace those with A and B. So this is some sort of obfuscation. OSCP is your online certificate status protocol. So this is internet protocol which enable applications to determine the revocation state of identified certificates without the use of CRL. With OCSP, it is possible to gain more timely information of revocation state than it is possible with CRL. So this is another protocol which is a replacement for CRL, which just gives you the status of the certificate. So when you download a certificate from the server, so you can check the validity, is it expired, is it revoked, with this protocol. So the OSCP is internet protocol that certificate authorities use to determine the state of secure socket layer or TLS certificate. This helps web browsers check the status and validity of HTTP website. So this protocol is alternative to CRL. Offline certificate authority. So in PKI, a CA, typically the root CA that has been disconnected from the network to protect it from compromise. You just keep it offline. So if any of your CA is compromised, so this will be still protected. So all the certificates which are being issued by this CA will be compromised. OSINT is your open source intelligence where you use various sources like social media, news articles, public record, or government report. In contrast, other form of intelligence gathering may focus on specific resource type. You use Multigo, you use any of those tools which are available online. OWASP is your open web application security project. So this is an online community that produces freely available articles, methodologies, documentation, tools, and technologies in the field of web application security. So OWASP provides a free and open source. It is a non-profit. It is led by non-profit OWASP Foundation. So it comes up with top 10 vulnerabilities and the solution. So it stands for Open Web Application Security Project, started by Mark in 2001. It has a lot of participants and more than 4,500 financial members, a non-profit group that help organization develop, purchase, and maintain trusted software application. It comes up with top 10 list every year. OS top 10 2003, 2004, 2023, 2022. PAT is port address translation. This is the extension of NAT that permit multiple devices on LAN to be mapped to a single public to consider IP addresses. So what you do here, you also use port. So along with the IP, you use a port. So you can take a request from multiple computers with the help of IP and the port and send it outside through the public IP. Patch management. Patch is a set of change to a computer program or its supporting data which is designed to update fix or improve it. This includes fixing security vulnerabilities or other bugs, with such patch usually being called bug fix or bug fixes. So what you do, you scan your network regularly and notify about risk. In case of vulnerability, you identify missing patch. For new patch deployment, validate installation and check compatibility. Generate periodic report about patch update. Keep track of all the patch and delete unnecessary ones. Scan your network regularly and notify about risk. This is your patch management. Now you got PCI DSS, so that is Payment Card Industry Data Security Standard. So this is an information security standard which is used to handle credit card from a major card brand. Standard is administered by Payment Card Industry Security Standard Council, and its use is mandated by card brand. So if you see what is PCI compliance, so you need to have a secure network, you need to have a firewall to protect consumer data, you need to have a data protection, protect and encrypt cardholder data, you need to have a risk management, maintain secure system by targeting vulnerabilities. You need to have access control, restrict access to cardholder data by a need to know basis. You need to do a regular monitoring networks and track access to resource. You need to maintain a policy that addresses that security. So penetration testing is an authorized simulated attack which is done on a computer system to check its security. Pen testers use the same tool, technique and process as attackers to find and demonstrate the business impact of weakness in a system. So these are your benefits, or these are the stages of doing penetration testing. So you start with reconnaissance, you then scan the networks, you gain an access, you try to maintain the access, and then you do analysis and WAF configuration. PFS is it's a perfect forward secrecy. This is also known as forward secrecy. This is the encryption style known for producing temporary private key exchange between client and server. For every individual session which is initiated by a user, a unique session key is generated. So what do? You keep on changing those keys. So if attacker is able to get the key, he will not be able to decrypt all the information, the previous information, because what do? You break the message into multiple parts and you keep on changing those keys. Pharming is a cyber attack which is intended to redirect website traffic to another fake site by installing malicious program on a computer. Pharming can be conducted either by changing the host file on a victim's computer or by exploitation of a vulnerability in the DNS server. So what if you see a web user, this is the hacker, so sends user a fake website instead of the real website the user intended to visit. So it just changed your DNS settings. PHS is your protected or personal health information. So this is a category of information that refers to individuals' medical record and history, which are protected under HIPAA. Protection of PHI includes a wide spectrum of ramifications for business or individuals. So your name, your region, this could be your personal identifiable information, personal health information. Phishing is a form of social engineering where attackers deceive people into revealing sensitive information or installing malware such as ransomware. Phishing is a cybercrime in which scammers try to lure you into giving your personal information by impersonating a trusted source. So phishers can trick you through the text message. This is what we call smishing through SMS, smishing, or it can happen through the emails, which is phishing, or it can also happen through your phone call, which is we call vishing, voice over IP. So if phishing happens through VoIP, it is what we call vishing. Physical control is a control that acts against in-person intrusion attempt. So there could be technical controls, there could be administrative controls, or there could be physical controls. PII is personally identifiable information, data that can be used to identify or contact an individual, or in case of identity theft, to impersonate them. So this could be your PII, your name, your address, birth date, and all. PIV is a personal identity verification card. This is a specific type of smart card technology that allows individuals to gain access to US federal resources and facilities. So this card has all the details here: your name, your rank, your address, the chip, and everything. PKI is your public key infrastructure. So this governs the issuance of a digital certificate to protect sensitive data. It provides unique digital identity for users, device, and application, and it secures end-to-end communication. So what you do, if you need a certificate, you are going to send your request to the registration authority. It just verifies everything and sends a request to certification authority. It gives a certificate to the validation authority, and you're also given token by these guys. So you present this token to the validation authority, and that's where you download your certificate. Port security is going to enable you to configure each switch port with a unique list of MAC addresses of device that are authorized to access the network, right? This guy is authorized, but if you try to bring some other device, it might not allow. So the security enable individual port to detect, prevent, and log attempt by unauthorized device to communicate through the switch. Private key is also known as secret key. This is a variable in cryptography that is used with an algorithm to encrypt and decrypt data. Secret key should only be shared with key generator or parties which are authorized to decrypt it. Like, you take a plain text, you apply a secret key, you get a ciphertext. Now the other person needs to apply a key on the ciphertext to get the plain text. So this is a shared secret because you need to share this key or secret with the other person. Privilege escalation is a cyber attack which is designed to gain unauthorized privilege access into a system. Attackers exploit human behavior, design flaws or oversight in operating system or web application. Like, you just are getting the user, you get an admin, from admin you get a root, then you go to kernel. Proxy server acts as a mediator between you and a browser. So a proxy server is a server application that acts as an intermediary between a client requesting a resource and the server which is going to provide that resource. PTH is pass the hash attack. This is a type of cybersecurity attack in which adversary is going to steal a hash user credential and use it to create a new user session on the same network. So attacker is going to send a connection request, server sends the challenge, attacker gives the user and stolen password hash, server is going to verify. So you don't need to break the hash, but you simply pass those hash to the server to get authenticated. That's why we say pass the hash. Public key in asymmetric cryptography, it involves a public key and private key. Public key is used to encrypt the data. Private key is used to decrypt the data. This key pair has a mathematical relationship, which means that the data encrypted with a public key can only be decrypted with its corresponding private key. So here, this is a plain text. Bob, stop trying to make fetch happen. This is Alice. She's sending a message to Bob. She's asking, hey Bob, can you give me your public key? This is like Bob's email, and she's going to encrypt the message. So this is a ciphertext. Now Bob uses his private key to decrypt the message. So this private key is like password. PUP is a potentially unwanted program. So this is an unwanted program that is often installed when other software is installed on a computer. Typically a PUP serves as a marketing tool and often modifies browser settings or displays unwanted advertisement. The most common form of PUP is adware. PUP stands for potentially unwanted program. So adware is any software application that displays advertisement while the program is running. Examples include banner and pop-up windows. Keyboard loggers is a type of surveillance technology which is used to monitor and record keystrokes. Cybercriminals can use these to steal sensitive information such as authorization credentials, enterprise data, and computer activity. Spyware is a type of malware that is invades a device to either steal sensitive data or track internet usage. Spyware is installed on an end user's device without their knowledge. Purple team is a kind of a collaborative approach to cybersecurity that brings together red and blue team to test and improve organization security posture. Your purple team changes the team's dynamic and culture, maximizing contribution of each set of skills. So you have a red team, which could be pen testers, social engineering, or security researchers. Blue team is a defender, and then purple team acts as a referee, like the way we have white team. So risk analysis, there's a quantitative as well as qualitative analysis. So qualitative analysis involves identifying threats or opportunities, how likely they are to happen, and what is the potential impact if they do. The results are typically shown using a probability and impact. The type of analysis will also categorize risk either by the source or effect, like, is it low, is it medium, or is it high? So you can just prioritize those risks. Quantitative analysis, it is performed to understand the probability and impact of risk on a project objective. For instance, in a construction project, quantitative risk analysis helps to calculate the impact of a project delay, such as obtaining a permit late causes a 20-day delay with a cost of 80,000. So ALE is equal to SLE into ARO. So this is how you calculate the annual loss. It is dependent on the single loss and how many times it's going to happen within 1 year. So we already discussed about this concept. This is a registration authority. So the function for certificate enrollment used in a public infrastructures, it is responsible for receiving certificate sign request for the initial enrollment or renew from people, server, things, or other apps. Radius is a remote authentication dial-in user service. This is the internet standard protocol that provides centralized authentication, accounting, and IP management services for remote access users in a distributed dial-up network. RAID is a redundant array of independent disk or inexpensive disk. So this is a way of storing same data in different places on a multiple hard disk or a SSD to protect data in case of drive failure. There are different RAID levels, however, and not all have the goal of providing redundancy. So some of the RAID levels, like RAID 0, RAID 1, so some have stripping, some have provides you redundancy and parity and all those bits. Ransomware is a type of malware that prevent or limit users from accessing their system either by locking system screen or by locking users file until a ransom is paid. So RAT is your remote access Trojan. So what is RAT? These are the malware which is designed to allow an attacker to remotely control an affected computer. Once RAT is running on compromised system, attacker can send command to it and receive data back in response, like a remote control. So when you download most of the games, it might download RAT in your computer. This is a role-based access control. It's a method of restricting network access based on role of individual users within the enterprise. RBAC ensures employees access only the information they need to do their job and prevent them from accessing information they do not pertain to them. Based on your role, you get access to that service. Red team, blue team. So red team is the objective is to improve enterprise cybersecurity by demonstrating the impact of successful attack and by demonstrating what works for the defenders, for example blue team, in an operational environment. This is also known as cyber red team. So red team is a simulated adversary attempting to identify and exploit potential weakness within the organization's cyber defense. So they identify an attack path that breach the organization's security defense through real-world attack techniques. Blue team is an incident response. This consult guide the IT security team on where to make improvement to stop sophisticated type of cybersecurity and threat, leaving the IT security team responsible for maintaining the internal network against various types of risk. Replay attack occurs when cyber criminals eavesdrop on secure network communication. They intercept it and then they fraudulently delay or resend it to misdirect receiver into doing what the hacker wants. The added danger of replay attack is that a hacker doesn't even need advanced skills to decrypt a message. After capturing it from the network, attack could be successful simply by resending the whole thing. So what they do, they'll just capture your hash and they can just resend it. They just replay those authentication credentials. They pretend to be you. Replication is the process by which data residing on a physical or virtual server or cloud is continuously replicated or copied to a secondary server or instance. Organizations replicate data to support high availability, backup, and disaster recovery. Residual risk. So if you see residual risk, that remains after the controls are put in place. So there's an inherent risk, and residual risk is the risk remaining after you set up those controls to reduce the inherent risk. Retention policy is also called schedule. It's a key part of the life cycle of a record. It describes how long a business needs to keep a piece of information, where it is stored, how to dispose of the record, when it's the time. It seems very straightforward, and in many ways it is. Reverse proxy. So forward proxy is going to protect your client. A reverse proxy is going to protect your servers. So a traditional forward proxy server allows multiple clients to route traffic to external network. For instance, a business may have a proxy that routes and filters employee traffic to the public internet. A reverse proxy, on the other hand, route traffic on behalf of multiple servers. Risk acceptance. The response of determine that a risk is within the organization's appetite. So it is within your tolerance, and no countermeasures other than ongoing monitoring is needed. So then you need to accept that risk. So risk avoidance is the practice of ceasing the activity that present risk. So avoid having to deal with the risk. For example, client may abstain from drinking alcohol to prevent some diseases, or risk control. Reduce the severity of possible loss. For example, wearing proper protective attire and sticking to guidelines when working in a hospital. Or risk retention, bearing the risk personally. For example, David has this in petty cash in a locker. This is risk retention. Or risk transfer, when you buy an insurance from a third party, so you're just going to transfer the risk. Risk deterrence, so this is preventive. Then you have detective, which is going to detect. Corrective is going to correct. Deterrent, it acts like a warning sign. So it is like you hit me, I'll hit you back harder mentally. This can be as simple as posting prosecution policies on your login page and to convince potential attackers that you are taking steps to identify intrusion and you can prosecute them. Risk matrix, this is a heat map. This is different than wireless heat map. Powerful visualization tool for enterprise risk management, also known as risk heat chart or risk matrix. It shows risk livelihood on the horizontal axis and impact on vertical axis. So, is it low? Is it medium? Is it critical? Is it high? This is high here. This is medium and this is low. Risk mitigation is essential business practice of developing plans and taking action to reduce threat to the organization. The threat to business operation are numerous. A recent example is ransomware attack that shut down some pipeline. So you avoid the risk, you transfer the risk using insurance, you mitigate the risk while you set up a control, or you accept the risk because you know that no problem is going to happen. There's a risk register. This is a document that is used as a risk management tool to identify potential setback within the project. The process aims to collectively identify, analyze, and solve the risks before they become the problem. So you have, this is a risk register. It just gives you a likelihood, it gives impact, severity, who is the owner, and what is the mitigation action. Sorry. Risk transference. So sometimes we transfer the risk. So this is a risk management and control strategy that involves the contractual shifting of a pure risk from one party to another. One example is the purchase of an insurance policy by which a specified risk or loss is passed from policyholder to the insurer. Then you got risk management framework. This is a set of reference and tools that decision makers rely on to make a decision about how to manage risk. It could include, for example, policies, strategies, plans, process, models, and statement of your organization's position on risk. Like, what you do, categorize the information systems, you set security controls, you implement those controls, you assess those controls, you authorize information systems, you monitor them. Root CA. In cryptography and computer security, a root certificate is a public key certificate that identifies a root certificate authority. So they are self-signed and form the base of X.509 base public key infrastructure. So this is at the top level, and then you have intermediate and end entity certificate. A rootkit is a malicious software bundle which is designed to give unauthorized access to a computer or other software. Rootkits are harder to detect and can conceal their presence within the infected system. Hackers use rootkit to remotely access your computer, manipulate it, and steal data. So this looks like an example of a rootkit. Searching for rootkit. Router firewall. The firewall in your router is designed to prevent infiltration by outside source of internet traffic. Routers by design block incoming traffic that has not been requested by a source within your network. This provides a basic level of protection against outside threats. So the firewall which you on a router, you install a firewall. So RPO is a recovery point objective. So recovery point objective deals with the backup. So it sets forth a maximum allowable tolerance or threshold for data loss during a disruption. RPO describes the amount of time that can pass during the event before data loss exceeds that tolerance. For example, an outage occurs. So that's the recovery point objective. RTO deals with how long you need to recover, how much time do you have to recover. So RTO, recovery time object, is the maximum acceptable time that application, computer, or network or system can be down after unexpected disaster, failure, or comparable event takes place. So if you see RPO, this deals with how back you need to move, and RTO deals with how much time you have to recover. SMIME is a secure multipurpose internet mail extension, a setup specification for securing electronic mail. This is based upon a widely used MIME standard and describes a protocol for adding cryptographic security services through MIME encapsulation of digitally signed and encrypted object. Like you have sender is going to send a plain text. He's going to get recipient's public key, encrypt the email, send it to the receiver. Receiver can use his private key to decrypt it. Salt is a piece of random data which is added to a password before it is hashed and stored. Adding a salt to a password is a security process which is used alongside the hashing of password before they're stored. So what you do, for example, there's an apple, you add a salt, now it is going to create a different hash because those rainbow tables will have the hash of apple where attackers can easily break it, but once you add salt, you're going to defeat those rainbow tables. Sandbox is a cybersecurity practice where you can run code, observe and analyze the code in a safe, isolated environment on a network that mimics end-user operating environment. Sandboxing is designed to prevent threat from getting on the network. It is frequently used to inspect untested or untrusted code. Like you do the analysis. This is kind of dynamic analysis where you just go through the code, or maybe you just try to execute the virus and see how it's going to behave. Sanitization involves the secure and permanent erasure of sensitive data from data sets and media to guarantee that no residual data can be recovered even through extensive forensic analysis. So right now, why you need erasing? What are the different methods you have? Degaussing, purging, destroying, clearing. So that's your data sanitization. SCAP is a security content automation protocol. It's a method for using specific standard to help organizations automate vulnerability management and policy compliance evaluation. SCAP comprises numerous open security standards as well as applications which use these standards and to check system for vulnerabilities and misconfigurations. Screen subset. So this is your screen subset where you can keep your maybe FTP, you can keep your HTTP, you can keep your email server. It depends on your organization, but it's a dual home proxy gateway server which is used to provide internet access to other network nodes while protecting your external network. So anyone from internet can come and access those servers. Script kiddie. So often a script kiddie will use these programs without even knowing how they work or what they do. For example, imagine a child gets their first computer. Child watches a movie about hacking, then downloads a copy of Kali Linux. They begin playing with various programs while searching for online tutorials. Secure erase works by overwriting the data at its location with new data that is random and useless. Once this overwritten has been accomplished, software-based data recovery methods won't be able to recover the data. So this is the way to erase the data. Security as a service allows companies to use external provider to handle and manage cybersecurity. Outsourced security solutions cover services like DLP, antivirus, or maybe IDS. So it's cost saving. You have access to security experts, latest security tools and updates, simpler in-house management, faster provisioning, and free up resources. Secure boot. UEFI Secure Boot is a feature which is defined in UEFI specification. It guarantees that only valid third-party firmware code can run in OEM firmware environment. UEFI Secure Boot assumes that system firmware is trusted entity. Security control, a safeguard or countermeasure prescribed for an information system or organization designed to protect the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of its information and to meet a set of defined security requirements. SED is a self-encrypting drive which encrypts data set as it is written on the disk. Each disk has a disk encryption key that is set at a factory and is stored on a disk. So disk uses DA key to encrypt data as it writes and then decrypts the data as it reads from the disk. Self-signed certificate. So this is what you get when you get an error. So this might be a self-signed certificate. So this means choosing to proceed without the support of a trusted certificate authority to guarantee the validity of certificate details. By default, self-signed certificate will never be trusted by web browsers and operating systems. Separation of duties. Like he's a global HR, then Michael is a security admin. So what do? You segregate those duties. So what will happen in segregation of duties? It's a concept of having more than one person which is required to complete a task. It's an administrative control which is used by organization to prevent fraud, sabotage, theft, misuse of information. So not only this person can do HRing, but what do? There's a job, there's something which is done by multiple people to avoid misusing their power. Server certificate is a digital certificate that guarantees the identity of e-commerce site and other website that gather and store confidential information. Serverless is a cloud-native development model that allows developers to build and run application without having to manage server. So they're still server in serverless, but they are abstract. So what do? You do not manage the server, but maybe your cloud provider is going to manage that for you. Session hijacking is where you steal those sessions. So this is also called cookie hijacking. It's exploitation of valid computer sessions, sometimes also called session key, to gain unauthorized access to information or service in a computer system. It is little difficult nowadays, not impossible, but earlier it was very easy. Secure FTP, this is the FTP or SSL or SSL or TLS. So there are two versions, right? So there is an FTP and there's also FTPS. So SFTP is or SSH and FTPS is or SSL or TLS. So SFTP is a secure FTP. It's a secure file transfer protocol that uses SSH to provide high level of security for sending and receiving file transfer. This is similar to FTPS in that it uses AES or other algorithm to secure data as it travels between different systems. Shadow IT, this is unauthorized use of any digital service or device that is not formally approved and supported by the IT department. Example of shadow IT is like creating cloud workloads using personal accounts or credentials. So something which is not approved by your admin. Shoulder surfing occurs when someone watches over your shoulder to nab valuable information such as your passwords, your ATM pins or credit card numbers as you keep it into electronic device. When the snoop uses your information for financial gain, the activity becomes identity theft. So someone looking over your shoulder when you type your passwords and keys. SIEM is a security information and event management. This technology supports threat detection, compliance, security incident management through the collection and analysis both near real-time and historical of security events as well as a wide variety of other events and contextual data sources. Signature-based detection. So what is a signature-based detection? An approach to detect malware in which a unique identifier, normally a specific string of code or the hash of known malicious code, is established as associated with some piece of hardware. So what do? It is a signature based where you have a signature. The signature is defined for your, for example, there's a virus and the signature is defined. So it's going to see, if that signature is going to match with the virus, then it sends you an alert. Sinkhole is a way of redirecting malicious internet traffic so that it can be captured and analyzed by security analysts. Sinkholes are most often used to seize control of botnet by interrupting DNS name of the botnet that is used by malware. So you just use it to do analysis. SLA is a service level agreement. This is agreement between IT service provider and customer. For instance, you are a customer of a bank and the bank provides service to you. A service level agreement between you and the bank describe the service provided and the service level at which they will be provided. SL is a single loss into how many times it's going to occur. This is how we calculate annual loss, the amount that would be lost in a single occurrence of a particular risk factor. Smishing is a SMS based phishing. You have won this lottery. So it's a type of phishing attack that uses social engineering to get personal information about someone using text messages. Sniper is your community edition. It's an automated scanner that can be used during pen testing to enumerate and scan for vulnerabilities. This is SNMP, Simple Network Management Protocol, is Internet Standard Protocol, which is used to monitor and manage network devices connected or IP. Device like routers, switch, firewall, load balancer, CCTVs, and all communicate using SNMP. There's a manager, and those are the agents. So the manager is going to check the health of those agents, or they might be sending trap. SOC is a system on chip. This is a microchip with all necessary electronic circuit and parts for a given system such as smartphone, wearable computer or IC. So there is everything on a single chip. Spear phishing is targeted phishing. It's a type of phishing attack that targets specific individuals or organizations, typically through malicious email. The goal of spear phishing is to steal sensitive information like your login credentials or infect target device with malware. So threat actor identifies a target, sends legitimate looking email, victim opens the email and hacker gains access to steal data. SPIM is a spam over IP. So these are the spam message symptoms of widely used free instant message apps like Messenger, WhatsApp, Viber, and all. These messages are usually commercial type spam but can contain malware and spyware. Most apps have built-in filters that block message from unknown sources. Spoof is a single point of failure. It's a part of system that if it fails will stop the entire system like this. So they are undesirable in any system with a goal of high availability or reliability, be it a business practice, be it a software application or other industrial systems. SQL injection. So what happens? It's a common attack vector that uses malicious SQL code for backend database manipulation to access information that was not intended to be displayed. So the information may include any number of items like sensitive company data, user list, or private customer data. So hacker identifies vulnerable SQL-driven website, inject malicious SQL query, and then malicious SQL query is validated, command is executed by the database, hacker is granted access to view and alter record or potentially act as a database admin. Secure shell is a cryptographic network protocol for operating network service securely over unsecure network. It is most notable application or remote login, command line execution. SSH applications are based on client-server architecture, connecting SSH client with SSH server. So client initiates the connection by connecting server. Server sends server public key. Negotiation between parameters are opens. This is going to open a secure channel. User is going to log into server host operating system. Service set SSID is a sequence of characters that uniquely names a wireless local area network. SSID is sometimes referred to as a network name. The name allows stations to connect to the desired network when multiple independent networks operate in the same physical area. SSO is a single sign-on. It is your enterprise. This refers to the ability for employees to log on in just one time with one set of credentials to get access to all applications, websites, and data for which they have the permission. So this solves the problem for the business by providing greater security and compliance. So user is going to sign in and then he can access any application with a single sign-on. Nation states threat actor. So those are threat actors are people of groups who use their technology skills to facilitate hacking, sabotage, theft, misinformation, and other operations on behalf of a country. So they're being recruited by the government by the company. Stateful inspection. So it tightens rules for TCP traffic by creating a directory of TCP connection. There's an entity for each currently established connection. Packet filter will allow incoming traffic to high number ports and only for those ports that fit the profile of one of those entries in the directory. So review packet inspection, but also record information about TCP connection. It keeps track of TCP sequence numbers to prevent attack that depend on sequence number. Inspect data for protocols like FTP and all that. So stateful inspection, also known as dynamic packet filtering, is a firewall technology that monitors the state of active connection and uses this information to see which packets to allow through the firewall. Steganography is hiding a secret message inside or even top of something that is not secret. That something can be just about anything you want. These days, many examples of steganography involve embedding a secret piece of text inside of a picture. Like, in the picture, you hide something. Spanning tree protocol is responsible for identifying links in the network and shutting down the redundant ones, preventing possible network loop. In order to do so, all switches in the network exchange BPDU message between them to agree upon root bridge. So if they find there are two paths to go to a same destination, it might close this link, so there's only one path. There's a block cipher, there's a stream cipher. So a stream cipher is encryption technique that works byte by byte to transform plain text into code that is unreadable to anyone without a proper key. So these ciphers are linear, so the same key both encrypts and decrypts the message. This is a secure web gateway. It protects organization from online security threat and infections by enforcing company policy and filtering internet-bound traffic. A secure web gateway is on premise or cloud delivered network security service. So it has all these functionalities: SSL, content, and app control. Symmetric encryption is going to use a SAM key to encrypt and decrypt. So like you take a plain text, you apply a key, you get a ciphertext. You need to share this key with the other person to decrypt this message. If you encrypt a zip file, then decrypt with the same key. You are using symmetric encryption. Symmetric is also called secret key because the key must be kept secret from third party. Syslog is a way network devices can use a standard message format to communicate with a logging server. It was designed specifically to make it easy to monitor network device. Device can use syslog agent to send out notification message under a wide range of specific conditions. Tail command gives you last lines. So if you do not mention this 12, it might give you last 10 lines. Otherwise, whatever you mention, you are saying just 12 lines, it gives you 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 12. So this is a command which prints last few numbers of lines, 10 by default. For example, by default tail prints the last 10 lines, then exits. Tailgating, like you are accessing this gate with an access card, but someone is just following you as an attacker. It's a type of social engineering attack where unauthorized person gains physical access to an off-limit location, perhaps a password-protected area, where they might steal sensitive information, damage property, compromise user credentials, or even install malware on computers. TAP is a test access port. It's like getting a copy of all the data. So they are simple concept. TAP is a hardware device that allows network traffic to flow from point A to B, a B to A, without interruption, and creates an exact copy of both sides of the traffic flow continuously 24/7 without compromising network integrity. TCP dump is a packet analyzer that is launched from command line. It can be used to analyze the network traffic by intercepting and displaying packets that are being created or received by computer it is running. It runs on Linux or Unix. So this displays all the ports on which it's going to listen, and then you do TCP dump -I, give the interface, is going to listen those packets, then you do Control C to stop it. Technical controls are hardware and software components that protect a system against cyber attacks. Firewalls, IDS, and IPS all are examples of technical controls. Harvester is a command line tool which is used in Kali that acts as a wrapper for a variety of search engines. Is used to find email accounts, subdomains, virtual host, open ports, banners, and all that relate to a particular domain. ThinAP, which is controlled by a controller. There's also thick. Thick does not need a controller. So a thin wireless point is basically a radio antenna that is controlled by a wireless switch. If end user deploys thin wireless access point, entire configuration takes place at a switch. This usually saves time and money. Third-party risk refers to the likelihood that your business might experience an adverse event, such as a breach or disruption in operation, reputational damage, when you outsource particular service or use software which is made by third parties. These could be various risks. Threat actor is an entity that is partially or wholly responsible for an incident that impact or has potential to impact organization security. This is also a malicious actor. These are the different motivation for nation states. It could be geopolitical. Cyber criminals could be profit. Hacktivist, it could be ideology. Terrorist group, it could be ideological violence. Thrill seekers could be satisfaction, or insider threat, it could be discontent. Threat hunting is a proactive cybersecurity defense activity. It's a process of proactively and iteratively searching through network to detect and isolate advanced threats that evade existing security solutions. Threat map is a cyber attack map. It's a real-time map of computer security attack that are going on at any given time. Time of delay restriction. So when you are going to restrict based on time of the day. So you want restrict users access to Active Directory for a few days, hours. This is a security feature that can help to protect IT resource from unauthorized access, and system administrators make use of this feature to improve their effectiveness on the job. Timeline. This just gives an idea what happened to a particular file with respect to time. This is useful for a variety of investigation type, often used to answer questions about when a computer is used, what events occurred before or after the given event. Autopsy contains advanced timeline that was built with functioning from DHS SND. TKIP is a temporal key integrity protocol. This is an encryption protocol included as a part of IEEE 802.11i. So it was designed to provide a more secure encryption than notoriously weak wide WP, which we used earlier. So now we have TLS is a transport layer security. So this encrypt data sent over the internet to ensure that eavesdroppers, hackers are unable to see what you transmit, which is particularly useful for private and sensitive information like password, credit card numbers, and all. So this is your three-way handshake. Time-based OTP, which is based on the time. So it's a temporary passcode generated by algorithm that uses current time of the day as one of the authentication factor. So these passwords are commonly used for two-factor authentication. It's not a single factor. TPM is a trusted platform module. This is a physical or embedded security technology that resides on computer's motherboard or the processor. They use cryptography to help securely store essential and critical information on PC to enable platform authentication. Trojan is a type of malware that disguises itself as a legitimate code, so something which looks as good but it has a bad intention. Once inside the network, attackers are able to carry out any action that a legitimate user could perform, such as exploiting files, modifying data, deleting files, or otherwise they can alter the content of the device. TTPs are tactics, techniques, and procedures, the pattern of activities or methods associated with a specific threat actor or a group of threat actors. Analysis of TTPs helps in counterintelligence and security operations by describing how threat actors perform the attack. Type of scaling. So sometimes you type like google.com. So someone has already registered this site. It's also called typo squaring, in which attacker registers a domain name with a common misspelling of existing domains, so that users who misspell a URL they enter into a browser is taken to the attacker's website, also known as URL hijacking. UEBA is user and entity behavior analytics. So this is a type of cybersecurity solution or feature that discovers threat by identifying activities that deviate from normal baseline. Like it also includes entity. Entity could be any device, system, or application. UEM is unified threat management. This allows IT to manage, secure, and deploy corporate resource and applications on any device from a single console. So this is a step beyond traditional mobile device management. USB is a universal data blocker. So this is your kind of a data blocker which is going to block those signals. So a USB data blocker is a device that plugs into the charging port on your phone, acting as a shield between public charge station and your phone. So USB data blocker, also known as USB condoms, restrict hackers from accessing your phone data. So what do you do here? So you have a data blocker which is going to block those signals. When someone does a juice jacking attack, steals your data at the airport. UTM is an information security term that refers to a single security solution, or usually a single security appliance that provides multiple security functions as a single point. It has firewalling, it does email security, data loss prevention, and all that. VD is a virtual desktop environment. These are pre-configured image of operating systems and applications in which desktop environment is separated from physical device used to access it. Users can access their virtual desktop remotely over the network. Virus is a malicious code that replicates by copying itself to another program, computer boot, sector, or document and change how a computer works. Virus spread between systems after some type of human intervention. Phishing is defined as a cybersecurity attack where a malicious intendee contact the victim over the phone and try to gain their trust through social engineering practice. So it is just phishing over VoIP. Fraudster calls the victim pretending to be from bank. Victim shares the credentials or any other form of authentication. Fraudster uses this to steal victim's money. VM escape is an exploit in which the attacker runs code on a VM that allows operating system running within it to break out and interact directly with the hypervisor. Such exploit could give the attacker access to the host operating system and all virtual machines. So it is a problem in the hypervisor. VM sprawl is when you create more VMs. So it's a phenomena that occurs when number of VMs on a network reach a point where admins can no longer manage them effectively. So it's also referred to as virtual machine sprawl or virtual server sprawl. VPN is a service that helps you stay private online. You establish a secure encrypted connection between your computer and internet, providing a private tunnel for your data and communications while you use public network. Vulnerability is a weakness that can be exploited by the attacker to deliver successful attack. This can occur through flaws, features, or user error. An attacker will look to exploit any of those, often combining one or more to achieve their end goals. So we just got few slides left because we are discussing that with the alphabet. So we are on V. Now we have just few more, I guess maybe just 5 or 10. So it might take just 5 minutes. Vulnerability assessment is a systematic review of security weakness in an information system. It checks if the system is vulnerable to any kind of a loophole. It assigns levels to those vulnerabilities and recommend remediation or mitigation. You start with planning, gathering information, discovering vulnerabilities, and reporting. Sorry. WAF protect web application from a variety of application layer attacks such as cross-site scripting, SQL injection, and others. Attacks to apps are the leading cause of breach. They are the great way to your valuable data. So it's going to protect your website from those attacks. Ward driving is also called access point mapping, is the act of locating and possibly exploiting connections to wireless LAN while driving around a city. Water holing is a targeted attack which is designed to compromise users within a specific industry or group of users by infecting websites they typically visit and luring them to malicious site. The end goal is to infect the user's computer with malware and gain access to organization's network. So what do you do? Attacker, injects exploit into selected sites which is visited. Those things happen here. Like, you are not being attacked because you are very secure as an organization, so they affect the site which you visit mostly. WAP is a wide equivalent privacy. This is to protect Wi-Fi transmission by encrypting data to outsiders who are not inside the network will not be able to read the message or data. It's better than no security, but it is still not that secure than WP or WPA2. Whaling, it's a big fish where you capture big fish. So phishing is where someone sends an email. This is targeted phishing, but this is whaling is a big fish. You target highly, senior executives. Masquerade as a legitimate email. Whaling is digitally enabled fraud through social engineering designed to encourage victims to do a secondary action like initiating a wire transfer of funds. This is a white team which we discussed. It acts as a judge, enforce the rules of exercise. They observe the exercise, they score the team, they resolve any problem that may arise. It handles all the requests for information or question and ensure that the competition runs fairly, does not cause operational problem for defender mission. Worm is a kind of a Trojan that can propagate or self-replicate from one computer to another without human intervention. Typically, a worm spreads across a network. WPS is a feature supplied with many routers to make process of connecting secure wireless network from a computer or other. Like there's a button which you press, it generates a code. You need to type that code on the client to be connected. Anything as a service is a general category of services related to cloud computing and remote access. It recognizes the vast number of product, tools, and technologies that are now delivered to users as a service. Like there could be desktop as a service, disaster as a service, backup as a service. So some providers give you anything as a service. This is cross-site scripting, is attack in which attacker injects malicious code, script in the code. Attackers often initiate an access attack by sending a malicious link to users and enticing the users to click on it. So it's a type of computer security vulnerability found in web applications. There's also a type of malicious script. Malicious code is inserted in the website. Here it is inserted in the third-party site. So website can be affected by access attack, can also be affected by CSRF. Website protected by access can be affected by CSRF. So zero trust, now we reach to end. Zero trust is a strategic approach to cybersecurity that secures an organization by eliminating implicit threat. So now what do? You do not trust anyone, but you just gain that trust from various signals. Zero day is an attack which happens before the patch. So you discover security vulnerabilities that hackers can use to attack system. Zero day refers to the fact that the vendor or developer has only just learned of the flaw, which means they have 0 days to fix it. Right, guys, thank you very much. So we have reached the end. We discussed the terminology. I was a little bit quick in between because I wanted all that to finish in 1 hour. Because what I did is I just finished previous video in 1 hour. I know you guys may not be spending a lot of time on the video, so I tried to cover all the terminology, almost 150, and I guess 150 in the previous, so I think 300 or 300 plus terminologies I have covered, which is very important for us to go through, because I did IT fundamentals, I did security plus, I did network plus, I did A plus core 1 from CompTIA, and terminology is very important. This helped me a lot, so I did record the video. It is going to help you also with this exam. I do not want to spend more time on this, but I would like to say I will be recording more videos related to network security and cloud. So please do like, subscribe, share, and comment on this video and keep me motivating to record more videos. Thank you. See you in some other video. Thanks a lot.